This will be our next repair. And what is this? This is a DTG printer, and it's with 3090 printer installed inside. And how do I know it's 1390? Because it has this kind of keyboard over here. If it were L1800, then it would have a keyboard on the up here on the upper side of the cover over here. And this is an older version, and also this is a control board for the heating of the table. So this one has the heater installed inside the table, and as you can see, the owner has some own modifications of modified something himself. Usually the stand for this system is on the right side over here, but probably this CIS that he installed has a bit shorter tubes or pipes. So probably he had some problems with CIS standing too tall over here. So if that happens, if the CIS is too high up, then the ink might go out through the head during the night, because if the CIS is lifted too much up, then the pressure of the ink itself is pushing the ink through the cartridges through the head. So you might lose some ink if you have this shorter tubes over here in the original. So what he did, he placed the stand for the carrier for the CIS system somewhere where he would need a shorter this part of the tube shorter. This part cannot be shorter because he has to have enough length to in order for the head to travel freely from left to right. But this part could be shorter, but then you have to find another place. For the CIS, he placed it here, and it has to be in the level of the printer or even just below, because we don't want to lose any ink with the CIS being placed too high up. So also if you are somewhere above the level of the chassis or the printer itself, then when you add ink inside, you can also be losing, I don't know, a couple of centimeters of ink if it's mounted too high. So you always be sure to mount it in the level. The bottom should be mounted in the level of the printer or the chassis, or even a little lower than that, in order to keep all the ink inside. And one more thing, maybe you've noticed there's a light cyan and light magenta here inside the CIS system, inside the outside tanks. And why did he do that? He is using a technique that basically he uses the DTF ink on this printer, so it's a kind of hybrid. And this is a DTG ink that he is using for he can print with this ink also on shirts, but is using DTG ink like a preserver for the middle channels for the head. So when he's done with he has another CIS system with DTF ink inside, and also white ink inside the middle two tanks. And when he's done with white ink and DTF, he puts this CIS DTG CIS back on the head, and turns on one head clean in order to push out the white ink from the middle channels and insert some DTG ink, because it's if we do in reference to white ink, it's much lower density than the white ink, even the DTF. The DTF is not so dense, but still he says that it will keep the head if it leaves it with the DTG ink inside the middle two channels. He says it would keep the head operable for a longer period of time. So I didn't check that, but I believe it is true. But also I don't think it's necessary, because if you are doing constantly some prints, I don't know, you don't even have to do it each day of the week. You need to do a couple of shirts during the week. I think it could have the head could have a very long lifespan. So you don't have to do this. This is not necessary, but if you wanna go all out and keep the head operable as long as possible, maybe you can try also this technique, but I really don't think it's necessary, but it could buy you some more time. So, and other thing, what's wrong with this printer, it starts normally, everything starts normally, but it cannot reset the cartridges over here. So we've already done a quick check to see if the board with the connectors over here is okay. It's okay to see if electronic on the sys is okay. It's okay. And we've also checked already to see if there are any short circuits, on the cable. But the cable is also clean. So now there's two more things that we need to check, and that's the cable for the contact board and the motherboard. So now we will disassemble this and check what's the state of those two. Let's start the printer. So we've already done that, and we just want to show you for better understanding what's going on. So the printer, simply, it's impossible to reset the cartridges, and as I've said, we've tried these few things that we could do without disassembling. But now simply what we have to do is to reach the motherboard inside, and in order to do that we're gonna have to remove this main cover over here. So you see it doesn't reset, it's always the red ink light. Okay, so we have to remove this invention. So I'm not gonna be able to pull it through, so I have to do it other way around. Okay, we're gonna place this back because we don't want the head to be without cartridges on because it's drying. Okay, so now we will be able to remove the cover. It's a little more simple than the dealing with the UV, because you have less cables, less pipes, less tubes. So this part is the same as with any other printer that has this casing. This casing is used in many versions. But I'm probably gonna be using for a lot more. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. So now we want to get to the motherboard. We could disassemble this part also, so it could be more like more visible for you, but I will try shorter method or quicker method. I'm just gonna try to disassemble it like this, and if it won't go, I will then remove this piece also. So now the tricky part with this repair is that we have a clean head cable over there, so we've checked that before, and so there's hasn't been any short circuits over there that's around the head there that are transferred to the motherboard. So the question now is where did it came from? How did the problem appeared? From where did it happen? Could be one possibility is that the electronics on the print head, something went wrong with it, so could be that some short circuits or something like that happen on the electronics of the head itself. So sometimes if we have bad electronics on the head, it also burns the motherboard. So this is gonna be the tricky part, but there's no other way to check if it is so but to put in some motherboard that you know that is functional, and if it does the same thing, then the head is burning the motherboard, or not the whole motherboard but the part that reads the cartridges over there, and we will then have to replace the head also. No, that doesn't really matter if it's good, if it prints, if it has clear tests. It won't be having any kind of tests if it burns the motherboard or this part that reads the cartridges, so it's not usable no more. So we're gonna see what's with that. If that's the case, we have other motherboard that we're gonna install inside. We know that it's good because we've tested it before, and if it does the same thing, then we're gonna have to either replace this motherboard with another, because this is gonna be the test motherboard, or we can also repair this motherboard. We can repair the electronics on it. So if it's gonna be solved, that's probably what we're gonna do. So now we have here the motherboard that we've used before. We'll know that there are some problems with this motherboard too. That's why it's not so important if it does get burned on that part. So it's kind of a test motherboard. So we'll see what's gonna happen when we hook that one up. If it does the same thing, then either it's a burned motherboard, or one more thing that could be problem is the cable that goes from the contact board above the head to the motherboard. Sometimes there are problems with those. It's not that common, but sometimes it happens, yeah. So we're gonna see, but I'm guessing it's gonna be the problem with the head, but I'm not sure until I try. So you can see that probably you should screw a couple of screws over here just to have the motherboard in place, because it's moving around when you're trying to plug in something. Let's hook up the power. Okay, that's the power, so now we'll just have to put some cables over here. Other possibility that could, if the head is burning the motherboard, is when you wash it too much and you break the chambers or something like that, so the cleaning solution or the alcohol or whatever you are using and ends up on electronics, and you screw up the electronics with cleaning, and then the short circuit is of course transferred to the motherboard and you blow everything. So that's what usually happens happens when people are cleaning and not doing a proper job. But this is not the case here. The cable is pretty clean, almost new, probably recently changed recently. So now we don't want to have this hanging from the inside, we want to have it hanging from the outside. And of course you wouldn't want to keep the cartridge like this, so this is not a good job over here, because the head will be drying if there's no ink over here at all, just a little bit over here, but this doesn't reach the torn of the head at all. So let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, nothing blew up. Maybe I should hold this in my hand for a moment. So when the head goes slowly to the left, that means that there's some there could be some error or unfinished job that is not checked by the printer. So let's see if it turns on the ink LED. Yeah, so he did. So probably something is not working also with this lifting mechanism. Something is wrong there too, because it really spins just a little bit. Shouldn't be doing that. It doesn't kinda lift the, no, it's not lifting properly. This is very strange. Haven't seen that before. And it's also not resetting. So probably we have the screw up head. And also something is wrong with this mechanism over here. I don't know how that happened, but we should check that out also. Let me see one more time. Now he did lift properly. Okay, so something strange over there too. And probably why this is it's because it's not lifting the mechanism as it should be lifting. That's why this it doesn't show error, but when it does this, when the head goes slowly to the left, it has some unfinished checks after the error happens. But no, still the ink light is on. So maybe what else now we should do, we should put in some test head that we know that has the good electronics on it. It's not printable, it's not gonna print, but it has an okay electronics, functional electronics on it. So probably the head is blown, or to be more precise, the electronics is no longer good on this one. One thing that I've forgot is that this is the motherboard is from 1400, this is 3090 over here. So if we don't have the automatic auto reset chip over here on the CIS, it won't reset the 3090 if it's an ordinary chip for resetting 1400. So I've put inside the same thing on both sides, so 1400 1400, and now this is working. But this printer has some additional problems. It's not just the resetting, so it has problems with lifting mechanism over here. Sometimes it lifts the head up, sometimes it doesn't. And one thing that we've noticed that is pretty strange is that the wiper sometimes stays up, doesn't fold in when doing the head clean. So let's see, now it turned the automatic clean on. Let's see what's gonna happen, if it's gonna stay up. Probably the reason why it does so, probably there's a lot of stick ink to the wiper, so the wiper sometimes can open, sometimes can't. So probably we're gonna have to check that and clean that out to release those gears on the pump, and to clean the wiper and capping station maybe, although it's not that dirty. Something is also wrong with the pump that could cause, like you've maybe seen that in the videos where we did the repairs on the UV printer. There was a problem with the mechanism on the pump. It's so you see now the wipers, the wiper was lifted up instead of folded down, and already we have the general error signalizing over here. So definitely something is also wrong with the pump. The head seems to be okay. I just couldn't reset it because I didn't have the automatic chips over here on the CIS. I've had the ordinary one, so when I put the same thing for both sides, I could reset it. So we know now that the cable is okay. We don't know, still we don't have the complete information if the motherboard is burned. We're gonna have to check that out with some 1390 or auto reset chip over here with the original motherboard. And what we need to do for sure in order to determine what's the problem with this lifting mechanism is, first we need to clean the disassemble the pump, remove it from the printer, clean it up, see if there's anything wrong with it, or maybe if it's gonna need a change, and put that back in and see how the lifting is working over here, because on the left, because pump can affect the lifting mechanism. So that's the next thing we're gonna have to do. The pump is pretty much itself, and around it there's pretty much a lot of this rubberized thing, so could be that something is preventing the wiper from opening properly, because something is definitely wrong with this. The wiper stays up when it should go down, and we are gonna simply have to check what's wrong with it. So this you have to get it out. So there's a lot of ink over here. Probably we're gonna replace this also, because it's like wood almost. So what we can do is we can put inside just for testing, we can put the pump that we know that the mechanism is working but it's not pumping because it has a hole on it. But we're gonna see if the lifting mechanism is gonna work a bit better, because it has to do with the lifting mechanism. If all of the actions here with the pump when it's starting are not done, then the actions with the lifting system on the left side are not done properly either. So we're gonna have to check to see if it's gonna make any difference when we put another pump inside. We don't even have to clean this one before we can see if that's the reason why it's not lifting the way it should be. So you've already seen a couple of times how this is done. So I don't have to explain too much. This is also strange that this plastic piece over here is put so low. I haven't seen this before, that I cannot pull out the carrier. This is very strange. Somebody I think somebody is tampered with this pump. Why do I say that? Because I still haven't seen, this is the first time I've encountered this, that I cannot pull the carrier for the pump outside of this because this is put too low down. Because you can see that this is the original factory mark over here, This is where this tooth's supposed to be, so these two should match up, and I don't know why is this so low down. We have an example of one chassis that we're using for something else, for one other build, so this is how it should look. So somebody is having to do something with this part over here, so he didn't know how to place it back and maybe screw up the whole thing. I don't know, we're gonna try to do the things I've said before, but this is not where it should stand, because then this side of the shaft is standing too low if this is not lifted up. So this is for the adjusting the height of the shaft, this main shaft that the head is moving on. So somebody was doing something with that and probably didn't know what he was doing. But that's why we are here to detect if something is not correct. My guess is that this pump has been replaced. So where's the problem? Why isn't it coming out? That's strange. Should be coming out. I don't know why it's not. Maybe. Okay, so if it's not gonna come out, but it should be. I don't know. A lot of strange stuff on this printer. So if it won't come out, we're gonna have to move this part too. It's a bit easier over here because we don't have it's an original part, so we don't have this like on the UV. There's a additional part that is mounted on these brackets on the top. This is a little simpler. So now you see we do have to move all this stuff off to get it out. And we can't even do that. We have to manually lower the shaft down like this. Okay, so now we can get this thing out and this thing out. This is so tightly screwed that I can barely. Okay, so now that we've moved this, we should be able to get it out with no props. Okay. It is a bit, you see this, maybe this is the stuff that sometimes prevents the wiper from closing or opening. So we're gonna deal with that a bit later. Let's see if we can put some other pipe inside. We also have to move this out because it's pretty drained.